War and space exploration are alternative uses of the assertive, exploratory energies that are so characteristic of human beings. They may also be mutually exclusive because if one occurs on a massive scale, the other probably will not. Hello friends, I'm Arthur Woods, the resident artist of Greater.Earth. Welcome to the channel. Today, we unfortunately find ourselves in a period of war. And we don't have to look too deeply to identify that the sources of the many conflicts in the world today are about the control of resources, particularly energy resources. Therefore, we need to talk about how the path to global peace may begin by embracing the concept of Greater.Earth. Establishing peace off Earth through the mutual international cooperation and by applying the resources of Greater.Earth to solving terrestrial problems such as energy security and the climate and environmental problems could lead to establishing what we call peace with Earth. And ultimately, this could be a solid basis for peace on Earth. If you enjoy this video, your comments and your likes are much appreciated. The biggest obstacle to space development and to civilization in general are the wars over energy and other resources we are currently witnessing. Thus, the choice of using space technologies for either peace or for war, and how that choice may impact the future of humanity, is critical to our future. Simply stated, humanity must soon make this critical choice. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find that every satellite orbiting Earth has gone dark. Planes lose navigation, container ships drift off course, financial markets freeze, emergency services lose communications, and weather forecasts vanish. In a single day, the invisible infrastructure we have quietly built in space would reveal just how deeply our lives already depend on these assets in space. Yet today, as space becomes more crowded and more contested, we face a stark choice. Will we treat this new frontier as just another battlefield, or as a place to build the foundations of global peace? When the first satellites were launched in the 1950s and 60s, governments quickly realized that they needed rules for this unfamiliar realm. At the height of the Cold War, they negotiated what became the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, which still forms the backbone of international space law. It set out some simple but profound principles. Space belongs to no one. It should be used for peaceful purposes. Nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction are banned there, and exploration should benefit all countries, not just the ones with rockets. In other words, the very first legal framework for space imagined it as a global commons and a zone of restraint, not a high-tech Wild West. 6 decades later, this hopeful vision is under pressure. Space has become a critical arena for both civilian and military power, and major states are developing anti-satellite weapons, cyber capabilities, and other tools that could disable or destroy orbital infrastructure. Analysts warn that a space arms race is no longer hypothetical. It may already be underway with all the risks that implies for escalation and miscalculation. A single deliberate strike or even an accident in orbit could create clouds of debris that threaten every satellite, including those used for weather, rescue operations, and scientific research. The same global connectivity that makes space so valuable also makes it fragile. At the same time, our need for what space can offer has never been greater. Satellites are our planetary early warning system. They track storms and heat waves, monitor melting ice and rising seas, and give farmers and governments the data they need to manage food and water in a warming world. Space-based instruments help detect illegal deforestation, pollution, and natural disasters faster than any ground-based network could. In a very real sense, they allow humanity to see itself from the outside and to manage a planet that is suddenly and visibly under strain. Looking ahead, space may also hold part of the answer to one of our most stubborn sources of conflict: energy. The idea of space solar power used to sound like science fiction at first encounter, but the basic principle is straightforward and is being researched and developed around the world today. Huge satellites in high orbit would collect almost constant sunlight, convert it into microwaves, and beam that energy down to large receiving antennas on Earth, where it would be turned into electricity and fed into the grid. Because sunlight is available more than 99.94% of the time in geostationary Earth orbit, 8,755 hours per year, and unaffected by clouds or nighttime, these space systems could deliver steady, 24/7 clean power. Recent studies from agencies, research institutions, and emerging space energy companies suggest that if launch and technology costs continue to fall, space solar power could become economically competitive within a decade or sooner. Why does this matter for peace? Because much of modern geopolitics still rotates around who controls the production and distribution of energy. Oil and gas pipelines, shipping lanes, and strategic choke points have been flashpoints for crises and wars throughout recent history. Energy infrastructure is being strategically targeted in conflicts. Sudden price spikes and interruptions can destabilize economies and governments. If we can generate abundant carbon-free electricity from orbit and beam it to where it is needed, we start to loosen the grip of geography on energy security. Countries become less vulnerable to blockades, embargoes, attacks, or the politics of hidden agendas. In principle, a network of solar power satellites could allow power to be shared rapidly between regions, making the global system more resilient and less prone to shock. Plentiful clean energy from space would lead to an overall rise in prosperity. First, we need peace off Earth, a deliberate choice to deepen cooperation in space instead of sliding into confrontation. That means strengthening existing treaties, agreeing not to test debris-creating weapons, sharing information about orbits, and designing joint missions, such as international lunar bases, shared observation satellites, or multinational space energy organizations that tie countries' interests together. The orbits around Earth are a shared, delicate environment that should be carefully managed. If we permit unrestrained commercial exploitation, everyone loses. If we treat it as a battleground, everyone loses. But if we treat it as shared infrastructure, we create mutual incentives to keep it safe. Second, we can use this cooperative framework to achieve peace with Earth. Space technology already helps us understand and protect our own planet, but it could also help us power it more gently. Space-based solar power is one example. Using resources from the moon or asteroids for construction, manufacturing, and fuel in space, rather than mining everything on Earth, is another. The guiding idea is to shift the most damaging forms of extraction and pollution away from our biosphere while using orbital tools to manage the ecosystems we depend on more intelligently. If done under fair and transparent rules and with international cooperation, this could ease the environmental and social pressures that drive conflict on the ground. International cooperation would de-risk the initial investments and regulatory issues of energy procurement and space development. Finally, if we succeed in building peace off Earth and peace with Earth, we open a pathway towards peace on Earth. Energy abundance and diversified supply chains reduce the temptation to seize resources by force. Long-term collaboration in space builds habits of trust, shared standards, and crisis communication channels that can spill over into other areas of international relations. Perhaps most importantly, seeing our world from orbit, as astronauts so often describe as the overview effect, can reinforce a simple but politically powerful truth. We share one small, fragile planet and a common future. Furthermore, if one believes that economic and technological development are necessary preconditions for peace, then one must arrive at the conclusion that significant resources are necessary. First, to fuel development, and then to reduce tension. This video does not claim that space development will magically end war and geopolitical conflicts. The same technologies that promise clean power and global connectivity can also be used for surveillance, coercion, or attack. What it does claim is that humanity still has a choice: the space option. By embracing the space option, humanity could provide the necessary new and sufficiently abundant resources for reducing global tensions. This tension-reducing potential is perhaps the greatest contribution to eventual peace and security on Earth. The institutions and legal principles that tried to keep space peaceful were written at a time when spaceflight was new and rare. Today, as more countries and companies gain access to orbit, we have a chance and an urgent need to update those rules so that they support a new kind of geopolitics, one where the advantages of space are harnessed not to deepen rivalries, but to reduce the underlying tensions and competition that make conflict seem inevitable. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. That helps us having more visibility on YouTube. And stay tuned for the next video. Okay, goodbye for now.